And this is from Jasper, and he is asking, what are some mistakes that I should look for when I'm creating marketing emails? Trust me, I've been doing email marketing for quite some time. Full time over the last 2 years, part time as part of my work, for the last 10, 12 years. I've made mistakes and I've seen companies do the same as well. And so happens that, yesterday, one of my LinkedIn connections, Nico actually shared this. And you notice what is unique about this email is, it was sent supposedly by a gigantic IT vendor. All right. So we will not reveal who they are. And I don't think I will know, except maybe Nico would. But if you look at this part, oh, let me change this. Okay. If you look at this part, this is where the error is, right? If let me take this out. You notice the name is correct, all right? So it's addressed to Nico, but the content was basically some form of templates, but they forgot to fill out the content, right? So they're supposed to add text here, add, whatever is needed, and it was sent out. Okay, these are, um, for big companies, generally they have two, three people working on emails, or sometimes they may outsource it to different external providers. So what they do is they have this style guide, for example, for emails, or what are the things to make things simple, right? To making easy for emails to be generated. So what happens is somebody may have, obviously have, sent it without filling up the content, and they are not the only one. Okay, it's not a big deal. So I want to touch. Jasper, this is one of the mistakes that you need to be aware of. Okay, at the end of this session, I'll give you some quick tips as to what I think you should look for. Another one, if you look at this is an email from Adidas, right? And if you read the email here, it is basically quite innocent. I mean, it's nothing controversial until you dig deeper. And when it relates to Boston Marathon, for example, there was this bombing incident, right? I think it's been featured in movies before. It's a big news, and lives has been lost. In 2013, there was a bombing incident in the Boston Marathon. All right. Now, with that taken into context, and this email supposedly was sent on 2017, even though it's about 4 years ago, but still, these sort of things people won't forget. So when you have the word survived here, without this incident, it's fine. I mean, Boston Marathon is tough, or any marathon for that matter is tough, right? So if you go through, it's normal for people. Well, you actually survived your marathon. You actually succeeded. That's good. But in context of this case, which is the Boston Marathon, when you have survived the word itself, then it created a lot of controversy. It went viral. People start complaining, and a lot of people were not happy. All right. So this is another thing that you need to be aware of, especially when you're sending, emails on behalf of companies or maybe for your brands. You got to be mindful of the words that you use. You got to be mindful of the environment and this current situation. Okay. So what was right, for example, what was said 2 years ago about working from home and all those things, or a joke that you may make that you work from home, and during the pandemic, it's no longer fun, right? And a lot of companies actually had to readjust the content because of the pandemic, right? So if not, they will come across as being inconsiderate. They will come across as being insensitive. So you, as the person who's responsible to send emails, got to be aware of this. All right. So another example. This is from HBO Max, similar to what the example that Nicole shared. You notice this is an email, and it was publicized over Twitter. People, the email community, we're kind of small, and we catch this, and then some of them actually put it up for everyone, and it just spread like wildfire. What happens is, in HBO Max case, this email was actually sent out. This was the actual content of the email. That's it. All right. So what happens? People will make fun of it, make fun of HBO Max, your brand. In this case, is people laugh at it, right? It's nothing serious, not as bad as, to a certain extent, like Adidas, you probably get people, you know, um, lodging complaints and probably banning your product and all those things, right? But in this case, HBO Max, it was less severe a mistake that was made, but still, it's kind of embarrassing. Okay, so the next question is this: what do you do, right? If you happen to be the company, or you or your team members happen to create, send out a mistake, an email by mistake, right? Um, well, if it's a small mistake, chill, have have a drink, and before you write the apology email. Okay, wait, let me show this. Okay, so in worst case, if you created a big mistake, in this case maybe an Adidas mistake or maybe an HBO mistake, for example, where it was sent to it was sent to all their subscribers, right? So that's significant, right? So if it's a big boo boo, well, have a couple more drinks then. Have a laugh at yourself, and then write your apology email, right? Get this. Unless you really, really so-called burn bridges, your email is so bad they literally burn bridges with your customers. Uh, People will accept this, right? We are all humans, right? So it's fine to have mistakes. And the only thing you can do is to just make sure they don't occur that often, right? So considering the seriousness, or as far as other people is concerned, right, that they consider the email from Adidas was not very good. They actually came out, in this case, they also use social media. And one thing you need to be aware of: if you are a big brand and you made a mistake, you don't just send emails to your audience. You should also, especially with social media, it's so easy to share and to copy and share, and that's it, right? So in others case, they actually use the power of social media to get a message out. No point hiding it, no point denying it. It's there. Eventually people will know. So they made a apology for this, all right? And that's fine. Eventually it will blow over, but at least it was acknowledged, and you cannot hide it, like I say, and you know say it as it is, right? Another option is, in HBO's case, like I say, it's not that severe. They actually sent out a tweet, and they acknowledge that they actually mistakenly sent out a test email, an empty test email, to a portion of the mailing list, which is still significant considering the size of their subscription. And they apologize for inconvenience, and blame it on the intern. you know so it is something lighthearted, so you can actually turn it around, and from something negative, into something positive. Another way to look at it is, for example, this brand called Drizzly. And this sort of mistakes, sometimes I also happen to make it if I forgot to code it correctly. For example, the placeholder, and instead of sending a name to you or Andrew, for example, it becomes like bracket name. All right, that's where you're supposed to put in the list or subscriber list name, right? They send it out, and what they do, they basically make fun of it, by saying that my dog did it. And what else? And if you notice, they then basically give them a promo code. So turning from negative to positive, hopefully they made some sale, and they use this, the lorem ipsum, which is basically copywriters, normally what we do, or web designers, we have this kind of word. I can't remember what it's called, but generally fillers, right? Before we actually put in a real text. So when we are doing draft, for example, we're doing mockups, we actually use lorem ipsum and a bunch of gibberish word, and they use it and use that as your code, right? So that's a smart way of doing it, right? So that's a smart way of coming back for something embarrassing. Okay. And finally, here is Body Shop, right? Apparently, somebody got overexcited and sent the same email multiple times, eventually, or generally speaking, spamming their list. And they came up with an apology email. And basically, they explained that, somebody just hit the send button too often, and, and just sorry, that's about it. So that many, many ways to go around, basically, how should I say, uh, avoiding, or not avoiding, but basically turning something that is not so nice, not so embarrassing, all right, into something that's fun, that actually let people laugh, and life goes on. Okay, so this is how you can do it. So here are the tips, right? I think I've got 6 tips. So here are the tips, or some of the tips that you need to do Just bear whenever you are creating your marketing emails, first thing first, you be careful or be mindful of the subject lines that you use, right? Because that's the first thing they see when they receive an email from you. They'll see your sender name. The next thing they see is your subject lines. And 46, there's a stats that say that, a majority of people actually decide whether to consider the email as spam, about 46% of them, purely based on reading the subject line. All right. So if your subject line is something that felt right when you're writing it, but totally wrong when you're reading it after sending it out, then that's where the damage will be done. Right. So check your subject lines, avoid controversy, and be mindful of sensitivity to your readers, for example, and look around the events. It doesn't have to be local events, it could be a foreign events, right? Things that may trigger a negative emotion with your readers, then avoid it, right? Don't try to be clever or don't try to be creative. Be clear. Have clarity. It's always clarity. Being clear is always better than being creative when it comes to subject lines. Okay. The second thing is a lot of companies, but if it's transactional emails, that means if I buy something and I'll receive, let's say, an email about the receipt and all, that's fine. You can have the no reply.com kind of sender address. But if you're sending normal marketing emails, I would not encourage you to have this, because if your readers spot a mistake, or your readers, basically find something that is not, that they don't agree with, by allowing them to reply back to you instead of having a no reply, you catch the problem immediately. Okay, so certain people may receive it earlier, and especially if you've got a big list, you'll be sent in batches. When they receive earlier and they find that it's a mistake, they'll be nice enough to you to actually let you know. And that's where you can either stop the rest of the emails from being sent out, or immediately prepare a follow-up apology email before things blow over. Right? So that's the next thing. The third one is, well, at the very least, if you're the one writing the email, have somebody else to read, right? Because sometimes when you're writing it and it felt right as you're writing it, but when it comes from a third party or somebody who is have not seen the email, when they read it, they may interpret it differently. So if it's positive, fine. But if they interpret it negatively, at least you catch it there and then, and make the necessary adjustment before you send it out to the rest of your list. Okay. Or if not, send a test emails. No, especially when you're building, for example, like HTML emails, like e-commerce emails, which have a lot of graphics, right? It is good for you, before you send a test email to yourself, because you also want to remember, last week we talked about message being truncated by Gmail and Yahoo Mail when it exceeds 102 kilobytes. So by sending it to yourself, you actually catch this mistake. And if it's truncated, then fix it, right? Or maybe certain image just don't come out right, all right? So you can actually catch it internally before it goes out to the world, goes out to the public, okay? And number four, not having clear call to action. Now, you have actually spent time writing emails, and you would take, a certain percentage of your readers' time to read them. And if you don't have very clear call to action, you've literally wasted that email. All right. What do you want them to do? All right. And be explicit about it. Tell them exactly what you want them to do next, so that they take the next action. They, to consume the content, or do something. All right. And then move on with life. So by not having a clear call to action, it's as if you're writing an email without any direction. Okay, so if you want to educate, fine, but you must always, as much as possible, must always have the next step, so that they can then move on to the next step and progress. Okay, the fifth one, your email content is not consistent with action. Okay, in this case, this one refers to, for example, when you're creating automation emails. Right. So let's say somebody buys something, and by right they should be receiving maybe a thank you email, or maybe they're receiving maybe an upsell email, and basically, or either what to do next, after the purchase. That's fine. But if you have other emails related to maybe some other nurturing emails, which is totally irrelevant to whatever they did, then basically, it wouldn't be beneficial to the reader. Okay, or when somebody signs in to your list, instead of receiving welcome emails, for example, they actually receive an email trying to sell them something straight off the bat. That is, it is possible that you can carry off, if your copy is good and it's something that people needs urgently. But generally speaking, if you sell off the bat before they even know you, uh, you would have very, very small chance of succeeding. Okay, so make sure your content is consistent, and go through your automation. Have somebody else test it. For example, when they press something, they should receive. So if I press the download, I should receive an email telling me what to download or where to download the whatever product or whatever link magnet or content I want. But if not, I've received some other emails, then it just defeats the whole purpose. All right. Okay. Number six, your content. All right. And we talk about writing for the reader of one or one reader, for example. Your content should be focusing on your reader, not you. Okay. So in this case, for example, if you made a mistake, apologize, tell them directly, stop selling, but basically make fun of yourself, but build use that as an opportunity to build a relationship, right? Because we are all humans, and when you show that level or that side of vulnerability, people kind of feel better for the brand. Okay. All right. What else? Oh, the last one. Like I say, if you made a mistake, apologize immediately. If it's not something serious, not like as severe as Adidas, for example, then you can put fun yourself, like like what Body Shop did, like what the other two brands or HBO Max did, for example. But if it's something serious, right, and it really irks your reader, right, then use a serious tone, right? Don't downplay it. Then it will even backfire. People say that you're not serious about it. So be mindful. It's just like PR, managing crisis, for example. There's time that you laugh at yourself. There's time that you seriously show intent that you really made an honest mistake, and you regret it, right? And so that's where the balance you have to strike, for your brand, or if you're writing emails for this brand. Okay. Okay, I let's go on to another questions. This is from, I'm trying to call up this page. Just a minute. This I can't paste it here, so I'm going to read out to you. Right? I hope you don't mind. It's from Jeremy, and Jeremy is asking. Before that, let me add a page. Can I add a page here? Oops. Sorry. Where am I going to draw this? Wait. Crap. Okay, never mind. Don't worry about that. Oops. Oh my goodness. Just a minute. Okay. Uh, See, that happens when things mess up. Anyway, so let me fix this. Okay. So Jeremy's question is, let me get this one out. Okay. I can't multitask when I'm live. Okay, let me get it out. Stop. Okay. Go again. So Jeremy's question is, how do you automate the sending of an email once they click on the submit button on the squeeze page? And Jeremy, I think you was saying that last week that you're building basically on Aweber, right? So let me go and find an empty page. I couldn't duplicate this page. So I'm going to find an empty page. Okay, I'm going to pick up this one. Okay. And I'm going to share this screen with you. Okay, so I'm going to use this space to do this. So Jeremy, your question is, how do you automate the sending of email once they click on the submit button on the squeeze page, right? So we know what's a squeeze page. It's basically a landing page with a form. The idea is to direct the user's attention to fill up their name and email so that they can join your list, right? Without any other distraction whatsoever. So when you sign in, let me get this one out. This is color. So when somebody signs in a form, most all email ESPs or email service providers, right? When you create a form, generally this form should be, when you create this form, generally this form is generated from an ESP. So if you're on Aweber will have a form, so-called creation tool, and you create a form and then you paste it onto your website, right? So let's say this is the rest of your website and the form is here, right? So this form by default would be linked to, in MailerLite, for example, is called groups. In other emails, it could be either audience, right? Or basically a collection of subscribers, right? Where the ESPs will keep. So when somebody fills up the form, this information will then be transferred to your audience, okay? And what you do is, Jeremy, is prior to this, you would have built a series of automation emails, okay? Let's say 3. And this is very likely will be your welcome email because this is the first time they're subscribing. So you will send a series of emails welcoming them to join your list, tell them about your background, tell them about what the benefits they're going to get from joining the list or what's going to happen next, set up the expectation and so on and so forth, right? Now, in order for this email to be triggered, what you need to do is in the automation, it would be, I will call it a trigger. Okay, I don't know what you call it in Aweber, but generally something that if somebody joins the audience, okay, a new audience, somebody signs up and become a member, a new audience, it would then be triggered for the emails to be sent to that particular person. All right, so this is an automation as well, but basically it's like a listening device. Whenever somebody joins, which is joins the audience group because they fill up this form, then it will be triggered, and then that's how you start basically the process of sending your welcome email sequence according to the sequence that you design. Okay, so that's as simple as that. There's nothing much you need to do except you need to use the form that's created from your ESP, paste it on your website or wherever you have or wherever you want. Some of them, even most of the ESPs now have the landing page features, so you can actually paste it there and link this whoever submits the form to a specific set of audience, and then build your automation that is triggered based on somebody joining this audience. And that's it. That's how you do it. Okay. Hi, and thanks for watching. If you need my help to set up your email marketing engine for your business, just click on the link here and you see a list of services that will help you grow your leads and sales and also increase your profits through emails. I'm looking forward to working with you soon.